Alright, so don't forget on a daily basis when you start in CAD, you want to make sure your project is current. Okay, just real quick, if you don't have your puzzle cube project made, remember to make it. If you have it made, make sure it's current. Failed to save. I think mine's having a problem with space, so don't follow this. I'm going to save it on my computer. Alright, so we click on New, and remember we've to this point used a part file. We're going to use an assembly file this time, and we're going to use the standard assembly file. So open the standard assembly file template. So what this does is if you go to place in the upper left hand corner, it opens components that you have already created. Okay, so here's a component that I'm going to use for this demonstration. I'm going to turn it so you can see it three-dimensionally. And I'm going to place two of these. So it allows you to click multiple. I can keep going if I want. As soon as you place the amount that you want, you can right click and hit OK. And now I have two components. Okay, so sometimes you may need to rotate these so that you can kind of visualize what they're going to look like or see what they look like. Free rotate right up here. If you click on that and then select one of these, it will allow you to rotate one of these without rotating the other. So what I'm going to do is make a T with these. I hit OK, and now I can move these freely. But what you are not going to do is just something like this, because what I'm going to check for is to make sure that these two pieces, or in your case your puzzle piece, your 5 pieces don't separate. So what you want to do is go to this constrain button, and all this information is in your PowerPoint. We have different types of constraints that you can use here. We have mate, which is the one we're going to use today. Then if you are ever in need of making an angle constraint, let's say you have two parts that are 45 degrees from each other, you would use the angle constraint. We have a tangent constraint and an insert constraint if you're ever making a hole and putting a bolt through it or something like that. Okay. We also have down here a mate, so when you click two surfaces, edges, points, or lines, they will come together. So if you picked, to give you a visual, if you picked the palm of your hand, each hand, and did a mate constraint, your hands would clap. They would go together. Or you have a flush constraint. If you have two edges that need to be flush, that's the one that you will use. Okay? So first we will use a mate constraint and keep the solution to mate. What you want to do now is, and make sure you're zoomed in. If you're way out like this, it's really hard to tell what surface you're picking up on. Okay? So you really want to make sure you're zoomed in, because I can select an edge, I can select a surface, you can even select a point if you had one on your drawing. You could select a center line if you had a hole. So I want to pick this surface, and then a lot of you have figured out how to rotate. Some of you are using this right here. Another way I do it is I hold shift down, I hold the mouse wheel down, and it allows me to rotate through here. Maybe my computer just froze. My computer is freezing here, so hang on one second. As you can tell, I'm not too comfortable using that orbit tool. I like to hold shift down, and it doesn't seem to want to rotate here. I hit cancel one time, I think, and tried it. You can use the view cube too, but alright. So I'm going to have to use the view cube, it looks like. So here's my surface. Man, it doesn't want to do that for some reason. And I just want to pick the surface of this other rectangle. And you notice you get that little, okay? That's telling you that you just created a constraint. Before you do anything, you have to, if you like it, you have to apply. Okay? I really wish the shift orbit tool would work for me. And now what I do to double check this is I grab one, and you'll notice that it's moving left to right, but I can't really pull it apart. I can't separate it. That's because this surface right here, that right there, that square surface is mated with that surface. Okay? Now I can make another constraint, but this time I want a flush constraint. I want to make this surface flush with that surface. And then apply, and you notice now that it looks like a T. Okay? So now it kind of looks like a T. Now again, to check this to see if it's fully constrained, if you move this, see how it slides back and forth on the red piece? Okay, there's a couple. If I wanted this to be right in the middle, you can use what is called this offset input. Okay, so let's say from here to this edge, I wanted it to be 1 inch. Okay, that's a flush constraint first of all, because if I go here and here, it's going to put it flush. But watch what happens when I enter a distance here. If I type in 1, okay, you'll notice it goes the opposite direction that I want it to go. So I want to type in a -1, and that actually looks right in the middle. So that's going to require a little bit of math. If you have something like that, you're going to have to figure out what the length of this is, the width of this, do some subtracting and dividing. I want it to be right there, so I'm going to hit apply. Okay, and now when I grab this, the whole thing moves together. Okay, it's important to use your browser. Sometimes if we get too many constraints going and I try to move this and it still moves, but you feel like you've constrained it, you've got to check over here. And if you just hover over them, you'll notice the surface or the edge or the point, whatever you've constrained, it highlights it in your model so you can see what relationship exists with those two surfaces or edges or whatever it is. Okay? It even lists your offset distance right here. So if I wanted to change that, I could just double click on that. If I want it to be -1.5, you'll notice it shifts. Okay? One other thing I should show you is this grounded feature. If I right click on the first part that I've put in this assembly, if I right click on it, I can go down and click grounded, and you'll see this little pin right here, this little tack shows up in part 3. Okay, so what I've just done is I've grounded or locked this in place so none of it moves now, and that might be helpful for your first puzzle piece. Okay.